Welcome to What You Really Want to Know. I am attorney Amanda Schaefer. Today we're going to talk about why do immigration court hearing dates keep changing. Before I get to that, quick reminder, don't forget to like us and follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, wherever you are watching. And if you find this video to be helpful or know someone who may, please hit that share button. So the reason I decided to talk about this today was because of what happened last night. Around 4:30 p.m., well, I was supposed to have a hearing for a client for asylum today. Actually, I'd be in that hearing right now at 1 o'clock. And at 4:30 p.m. yesterday, the immigration court calls us and says that today's hearing is canceled. And this was after my client had come in and prepped for the second time. The first time he had his hearing was in 2019, and it got moved, and then the pandemic happened, and he's been waiting for a while, needless to say. So we called him, and this client speaks limited English. So he really just didn't understand. He said, what happened? And we're like, we don't know. We don't know. They just called us and said it was moved. And then I got an email from the court, and it showed all of the judges' cases that day were canceled. They emailed there's 3 attorneys, they emailed all at once and said, these cases are canceled tomorrow. So I know this is something that is happening a lot right now, especially in the New York City area. I can't necessarily speak for courts in other jurisdictions. In Newark, we don't have as many cases. Cases have been moved around a lot too, but not as much. But for the rest of the country, the reasoning behind changes are probably similar to what I'm going to talk about, but you guys might not be having as big of a problem as we're having here. I don't know. At least half of the cases that I've have scheduled lately, probably more, are being changed. And they're not just being changed, they're being changed last minute. So what's going on here? So there are 3 ways three parties, or not even parties, so judges in the party, 3 entities who can change a court date. So you have the judge. The immigration judge can change anyone's court date anytime for any reason, and they do not have to tell you. They can change it literally less than 12 hours before. I have shown up for an individual merits hearing for a client, and the judge just didn't come in that day. And judges get sick. Judges have emergencies. No, that happens. When we asked the law clerk, well, what's going on here? That person didn't even know, or the legal assistant didn't even know. And that was a little strange, but that was even before the pandemic that's happened. And I don't know the internal policies of EOIR, so I don't know if immigration judges are subject to discipline or anything for doing something like that. That judge may have had a very good reason to have missed court that day, but we sat there for like 2 or 3 hours waiting for the judge because they didn't know he was coming in, and we can't afford to not be there if the judge did, and then my client gets removed in an absentia. So you have to go. If you haven't heard it's canceled, you have to go. And you can check online. I just Google EOIR case status, and then I type in my client's A number, and that's actually, it used to not exist. We used to have to call a phone number. Phone number still exists, but now the online system seems to be more accurate. Although they are supposed to also mail you, or if you have an attorney, your attorney, new hearing notices. And what's weird about the case last night is March 26th, I think it was dated, they mailed us a notice of this internet-based hearing that was supposed to be today. So it was so close in time, I thought, okay, no way this case is getting moved. And then I checked again yesterday morning because I kind of had a feeling. I knew, it's Passover, happy Pesach to all those who celebrate. I know that Good Friday is Friday and Easter is Sunday, and happy Easter to all of those who celebrate. So, I was kind of had this feeling, but I had no way of knowing until it happened. So the judge can change. The other two ways are the government attorney or you or your attorney can file a motion to adjourn or to continue. As I said, the judge does not have to file a motion. The judge doesn't have to give a reason why. DHS and the Department of Homeland Security and we have to give a reason. So if someone's sick, if sometimes people switching attorneys isn't always a reason. Usually the main reason is sick, emergencies pop up, things like that. I've had clients come to me. I had a client come to me once where their attorney died and their hearing was in 2 weeks. So there are good reasons to file a motion to continue. But these changes lately, and by the way, if your attorney is the cause of the adjournment or why your case was changed, your attorney should communicate that. We have an obligation. We're not supposed to change court dates unless we have to. Sometimes you get another court date scheduled for some, and you can't change it. Like if you have an emergency case come up. I also tell my clients when the Department of Homeland Security files a motion to continue the case, because I have to ask my client, do you want me to respond or not? If you want me to oppose it, we can oppose it and the judge might not grant it, or we could just not do anything and the judge will grant it. So generally speaking, if your court date is changed and you don't know about it, it's because it was the judge or something in the court internally through the judge. So what can you do about it? Well, it's really frustrating. I've had cases moved 4 or 5 times in the past couple of years. The COVID-19 pandemic really, really set back the courts. In addition, there's been so many new judges appointed between the Trump administration and the Biden administration. The judge I was supposed to have today started hearing cases December of 2022. So only 4 months of hearing cases. It takes immigration judges longer to go through cases because there's all these procedures when they're new. They have to follow certain procedures. Like I might know everything about immigration law. If I became an immigration judge, I'd be starting in the same boat where, they have to read certain things on the record. They have to type in certain codes. So it just takes them a little longer. So this judge only had 3 individual hearings scheduled when normally they have at least 4 a day scheduled. And I think the average seasoned immigration judge, I was once told, goes through 700 cases a year, whereas a new one is less than half. So that's kind of the drive behind it, that they don't have spaces to put. They don't have. They have now enough judges, I think, but they don't have enough spaces to schedule people into for those judges because they have less time slots, and they just have such a backlog. So again, what can you do? Well, you can't always do anything. If the judge changes your court date without notice, you really have no recourse. Even if it's injurious to, even if it's going to hurt your case, like my client who was here yesterday, if his case would have gone on when it was originally supposed to, it would have been much harder to win because of the country conditions. They had changed since he left. However, if his case went on today, I thought a very good chance of winning because the country conditions went back to the way it was, like the same person is now in power again as when he had to flee the country. It's almost unfortunate. It's unfortunate it shouldn't be this way, but it's kind of like luck of the draw when it comes to asylum country conditions. When your case is dependent on country condition, especially in political cases, because in political cases, if the administration changes, it is so much harder to win. Even if you're still going to be persecuted, you have to prove that the change in government didn't do that. So in a situation like that, you can file a motion to expedite. A motion to expedite moves up your case if there's a time slot available. Now, I mentioned earlier a case where the judge just didn't show up that day, and then in that same case, this client had a lot of bad luck. We ended up winning his case in the end, but it took a while. The DHS attorney had to get surgery. That was a different case. Then he had to get surgery and only told us like 2 weeks before. But in the case where the judge didn't show up, I was like, all right, let's try to expedite this case. So we filed the motion to expedite. We explained the reasonings, and we explained that the judges usually will tell you, like, file the motion. If I can move you up, I will. So we did, and the judge ended up denying it. I don't know why he didn't just keep it open if there was something that came up, but that's what happens. Instagram, I think, is back now. Okay, so you can file a request to expedite, but generally speaking, they're not going to expedite unless there is a really good reason. What is a really good reason? Health issues. And Instagram, Instagram keeps pausing for some reason, it's not liking the connection, I apologize. Health issues. They have to be really serious health issues. Sometimes people who want to bring their family members over here, once they get like granted asylum, they're the ones with the health issues. That's a little harder. But the court does respect if, like, you really, I haven't had a client specifically get it expedited on health issues. I had a client who was filing for cancellation and removal get it expedited because her son, his disability was so bad that there was no doubt, it was a no doubter case. And the idea was that she shouldn't have to live in stress for years and years because, she really needs to focus on her son. The bigger a better reason to expedite, or at least in the court's mind, a better reason, is if there's going to be an age out issue. What I mean by age out is there's certain types of relief that in order for you to be on your parent's application, you have to be under the age of 21. Cancellation or removal is an example. With asylum, if it's filed before you're 21, then you're okay. Then there's also SIJ, or special immigrant juveniles, who also have to be under the age of 21. And the problem is and then hardship waivers as well. If your qualifying relatives are your children and they hit the age of 21 for the certain forms of relief, and you don't have a case based off of anyone else, then you might not have a case anymore. So those cases, they will expedite if they can, if they have a space. Now, you're not limited to how many motions you can file. If you have a lawyer, I'm sure it costs money every time you file a motion. Not all judges, some judges keep them open, some judges deny them, make you refile. Again, all depends on what you're dealing with. So you can definitely ask them to expedite it. You can try. Another thing you can do is request to adjudicate your case on the merits based on the documents alone. Now it's also a hard way to go about it. And it's going to be very fact specific, and you're going to need the approval of the government attorney. So I have a case right now that I'm incredibly excited to talk about soon. I think I've talked about it a little. The case that I got the BIA to reopen and send back to the judge. Now we're trying to get her green card as soon as possible. The judge actually gave us a court date in July, but we're trying to save her a little money, a little stress, and get the green card sooner. So we asked if we could file a request with DHS for them to basically look over all of her immigration history, the green card application, and say if they'll agree to grant it. She has no criminal history. All she had was an overstay of her visa. She had ineffective assistance of counsel. That's why we got the case reopened. She has an approved VAWA petition. So she's an excellent candidate because there shouldn't be any issues with her application. We're in the process of filing that right now. And, that's something that can be done with any type of case, an asylum, a cancellation of removal, waiver cases, all of those types of things. You can file this type of request, but it's recommended you reach out, or your attorney reaches out to the government attorney first, because you don't want to waste, energy and stress and money and time filing a motion that is not going to be approved. I will not file a motion to adjudicate on merits unless I know it will be granted. And then there's prosecutorial discretion if it applies to you. And if you're not sure what prosecutorial discretion is, that is where you make a request again to the Department of Homeland Security to either close or terminate your case. Lately, whether they choose to close or terminate has kind of been not clear why they would do one or another. A quick reminder, terminate is when your case is dismissed outright, no more immigration court. Closure is when your case is closed, you don't have a future court date, but you're still in removal proceedings. So if you left the country, you're deporting yourself type of thing. And if you do want to get your green card with USCIS, you still have to terminate your case. It seems like if you have an approved underlying petition, like a marriage petition or a VAWA, they are now terminating. But if it's pending, they're closing, whereas before they were just terminating everything. But that can change tomorrow as well. So these aren't all great options. I don't have a great answer to this, but what I can tell you is that the majority of the time, and like super majority of the time, and at least in our practice, almost every time a case is moved from the original court date, especially when it's with very short notice, it is because of the judge. And at least when it's DHS, or they have to put a reason, like we have to put a reason. When it's the judge, we don't know if it's the judge, we don't know if the court staff, we don't know if it's something else. Like I know because of the Trump indictment on Wednesday, I think it was, it was Wednesday, a bunch of cases were canceled in the immigration court. We got an email. Some of the judges were holding virtual hearings, but nobody was allowed to go in the area because of the crowds. Generally speaking, if your case is being pushed off, you're just not seen as an enforcement priority. And that's a good thing. I mean, it's a bad thing for those who want legal status and a green card and be done with removal proceedings. It's a good thing for someone who doesn't have a great case but doesn't have criminal history. It's probably not going to win their case. If you're in that situation, then you want to look at filing a PD request for dismissal. You might not even have a way to get a path to a green card. You might not be married, for example, to a U.S. citizen. But they may very well still grant it, because I don't know how many clients. I have at least 10 clients right now who went to their master calendar hearings and don't have a future court date because they're in line to get a court date, and the judges have no idea when that is going to be. So it's highly recommended that, if you think that you're waiting too long, that you contact your attorney if you have one, or hire an attorney if you don't, and find out, do any of these motions that you can file make sense? The motion to request to expedite, adjudicate on the merits on the documents, dismissal, admin closure, if any of those make sense to do, because you don't want to just needlessly file motions. But the main thing is here, try not to get frustrated. I have to work hard to not get frustrated myself, because, with this client that was here yesterday, he came in 2019. We spent, I remember, about 5-6 hours prepping him for trial. And then, he had a very long case. He was all ready to go. And then, it just kept getting pushed off. And then he didn't understand last night. And I understand that he didn't understand. I didn't understand. And I was on my way to go to my Seder with my family. I'm in the Grand Central. I couldn't even hear him. And it was he just thought we moved it because of the holiday. And I was like, no. It doesn't work that way. I can't just move it unless I had a real emergency, like last minute, I need to file a motion. The judge did this. It was the judge's clerk who called us to tell us. I don't know why. And I hate when that's the answer, because I don't like not having answers for people, but that's what it is. So To sum up, it is very common right now, especially in New York City, for cases to be canceled without notice last minute. This is why you want to wait to prepare with your attorney until closer to your court date. This is why we wait to submit our evidence, our supplemental evidence submissions, as close as possible to the deadline, because then you're submitting another round of updated evidence if you have to wait a long time. And maybe this client will wait a few months, maybe it'll be more. I don't know. It could be next year, it could be the year after, to be honest. I already have cases scheduled in 2025. So you have a right to understand why your case is moved and everything. But if your lawyer says, I don't know why the judge did this, they're not just trying to get you off the phone or ignoring you. It's because we really don't know. And we are really getting frustrated ourselves because it's very hard to make our schedules when things keep changing like that as well. But try not to get frustrated. This is the system. Until Congress makes a change to the system, is what we have to deal with. But we're here for you. If you need anything, if you're on Facebook or on YouTube, our contact information is scrolling across the bottom of your screen. If you're on Instagram, if you go to our bio page, you can find our contact information there. And don't forget to like us, follow us, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, wherever you are watching. Hit that share button if you found this to be useful. Know someone who has a court date they got moved and they're angry and mad. Have them watch this video. Maybe they'll feel better that they're not alone. Misery loves company type of thing. But also maybe they'll understand a little bit more. I don't want you to be mad at your attorney either, because we're all in this together. We're all fighting the good fight, and we all want what's best for our clients. And I wish that I wish all the time that certain things were different, and this is definitely one of them, because I work my butt off preparing for a case, only to have to redo it 2 years later. It is frustrating, but hang in there. I'm going to do my best. You do that too. That is all today for What You Really Want to Know. Thanks for watching, and enjoy your holidays.